يلا.
Hello, hello.
Hi, good evening everyone. Can you please settle down? Or also can I request everyone standing behind to come and please take the seats here. We have enough and more seats.
Check, check.
Good evening everyone. Can I request people standing behind to kindly come and take seats here? We have more and enough and more seats. We shall shortly start our program. Hi, good evening everyone. Is everybody able to hear me? All right. Good evening everyone. Welcome to this gracious ceremony today. I welcome all our employees, all the 22,700 employees across the length and breadth of India. And I'm so pleased that we are able to connect with all of you, especially at the branches and our asset centers, on this live forum. This is a great moment for us. Ujjivan started its journey about 20 years ago when the vision of one man and his daring dream allowed us to take shape. This dream also became reality when similar stalwarts like him joined hands in his quest for excellence. These stalwarts joined Ujjivan as board members, investors, and colleagues. The dream kept on becoming bigger, bolder, and we kept on spreading our wings. Today, after 20 years, we stand here as one of India's best small finance bank. And I think that deserves an applause. As many of you will remember, we started our transformation journey in 2017 when Ujjivan Financial Services was transforming into Ujjivan Small Finance Bank. At that time, the major shareholder for Ujjivan Small Finance Bank was Ujjivan Financial Services. They were the mentors who ensured that fledgling Ujjivan Small Finance Bank ultimately was a success. And today, we wanted to take the opportunity to look back and thank all those stalwarts for being real Ujjivan North Stars. We started our transformation journey in 2016, and as on April 2023, we have successfully reverse merged, and Ujjivan Financial Services and Ujjivan Small Finance Bank are now one entity. And that was not a mean feat, or that was a great feat. So to commemorate this juncture, and especially with this transformation, this was the last and final chapter of our transformation, and we are now successfully transformed. To commemorate this occasion, we have been able to create a memory or create a movie called Dusk to Dawn. And we would want all of you to take a look. I will also request Mr. Prem Kumar Govindappa, who has been an integral part of creating of this memory, to come and tell us a little bit about the movie and the thought behind. Prem sir, over to you.
Thank you, Chandrelekha. Good evening, colleagues. It's lovely to be on the cafeteria again after 6-7 months, enjoying the lovely afternoon of Bangalore. You know, somewhere in December when Mr. Ghosh called upon Lakshman and me, he said, listen, hey, this merger is happening. We should do something about it and make it not like a regular movies. The communication should be simple. I think Lakshman and I spoke to a director, a very popular director by name Diksha Grover. She does some work on the OTTs for Netflix and Amazon and few others. So she's been doing our movies for some time now. So all that movies that you see, The Tree of Life in Ujjivan, any nice movie that you've seen so far is done by her and the small team from Ujjivan. So sir had told her, the director, that the narration was that, can you trace back the history of Ujjivan through the investors, the people who believed in us in the beginning? So I think when she came back to me and Lakshman, she said, listen, I know the names that you all gave us, a lot of them, but how do I talk to them? What do I tell them? What should be my question? So Lakshman, he told her that, hey, you ask your questions, yeah, Q&A will happen. So she a good director, she went around talking to about 20 of them, a little more than 20. When she came back and told me, I was very surprised to start with, and then I realized that, no, this is how people in Ujjivan are. She told me that people with money not normally have hearts. So she said during that interview, she felt that people who invested in Ujjivan actually didn't put their money. She felt that they put their hearts to it. They finally invested their heart in Ujjivan and not just the money. And what we shot in about 6 weeks' time, and this is in person directly and somebody on the video call, we were able to shoot the investors, and we kept it without a Q&A. We just asked them what they felt when they heard of Ujjivan from Mr. Ghosh and few of us. And that when I saw the entire raw file, there's such a lovely story. But we couldn't tell all that in a prescribed time of 20 odd minutes because, otherwise you had to run a 8 episode, one series on Netflix or Amazon. So we kept it very short. What we're going to show you in the next 20 minutes, 21 minutes is that the investment of hearts, the emotions of people who believed in Ujjivan and believed in Mr. Ghosh. That's the journey. So we enjoyed shooting that movie with people, a lot of to and fro, but I'm sure all that we put together for you all to see is to experience the legacy that was created. And we now have a movie that will be shown to you, and that's about the legacy that we take forward. James? Yeah. Thank you.
Take offbeat track and move away from this rut of commercial banking. I am thinking of setting up a microfinance, non-banking financial institution to help the poor.
I mean, to be frank, one didn't know if it will succeed because with my background in the regulatory side, I said there are many hurdles.
So I was not confident on that. He was very committed and he said, no, Ramurthy, poor are viable and they are bankable. And unfortunately what is happening is the sector is managed now by not necessarily competent professionals. If professionals like you, me, set up a bank and manage it effectively well, financial sustainability need not be in doubt at all as long as it is well governed.
We formed a small company and Mr. Ramamurthy and he had signed the basic documents.
Having been the signatory to the memorandum, which is the charter of birth of this organization, one of the signatories is me and maybe the second signatory was Samit. So that's one of the proudest moments of that, looking back. What really bound us full of all of us is same ethos, same strong personal integrity.
Then only the snowball effect that one success leads to another.
Both Sunil and Mr. Ramurthy kept us on the straight road, and they're responsible to a large extent to the incredible reputation which Ujjivan enjoys today.
I reviewed the memorandum and articles of association when they were first drafted. I was also an investor when Smith and I invested some of our personal funds in the angel round, friends and family round, as did many people and made out like bandits. Went to the first branch opening. I think we had some interesting conversations about raising professional capital apart from the seed capital raised from so-called friends and families. So I believe that my expectations were more than fulfilled.
In some sense, the Caspian and the Belvedere and Ujjivan's kind of history and stories feels like we've done it together for the last 2 decades. And today when we talk of microfinance, we really talk a lot about urban microfinance. And I think Ujjivan kind of really set the stage and standard for others to follow. I think that passion, I think, unified all of us, as board members, as shareholders.
I had the pleasure and privilege to be a part of the first board at Ujjivan. Michael Dell felt a natural affinity, not just with Samit and the Ujjivan team, but with Ujjivan clients and their hopes and ambitions and their vision for their business's future. And it was really that investment in people that the leadership team made from the very beginning and throughout that served Ujjivan so well in difficult times as well as good.
You get to meet people like Shamit and you interact with them and you plot a certain change you want to see in the world. But the idea was a few select organizations. So it was highly curated and calibrated as to who we would work with. So I really pushed through saying that if we don't back him, there's nobody you're really going to back as far as an Indian context is concerned. It was a belief in him that he can execute to this. One of the more interesting leadership calls that he took very early, which I have not heard many organizations actually take, was the fundamental belief that the different parts of the country are different. And so let's have COOs, if you will, for each of the regions of the north, south, east, west, now, which meant 4 COOs for the organization. I can't think of many organizations which have taken that kind of call because it's an unusual construct of decentralization while maintaining a centralized structure. So that's kind of a call that he took.
In 2008, a lot of our investors felt at some stage we would have to move to doing an IPO, right? So we needed to get in a hardcore private equity investors, and so we were very nervous,
So at that time, Sequoia, which is one of the most premier venture capital. So I got a meeting for Shomit with him, and he loved the idea. And they, I think, were the first serious big funders.
Shamit was a hard nut to crack initially. He almost didn't want to talk to me and didn't quite understand how to handle us at Sequoia and now Peak 15. But just like you very carefully select a co-founder that you want to build your company with, knowing fully well there'll be ups and downs, more downs than ups in the early years. In a similar manner, we think of ourselves as a early stage investor, like a founding investor, where we want to go through that journey of ups and downs. Ujjivan was the company that taught me that you can run a financially strong company, but you can also give back at the same time. And oh, by the way, if you do it right, they actually complement each other really well. By running a very tight financial shop, we would generate profits and we would be able to run something called Parinam on the side. And that would be able to give back more and more as we scaled. And so it became this beautiful viral infinity loop that the better that Ujjivan did, the better Parinam did, and that then gave back to Ujjivan and so on and so forth. It's one of those relationships. I'm no longer an investor. I'm no longer a shareholder in Ujjivan. But the beauty of this business is the relationships that you make when there's a, Andhra crisis that you have to go through together, or when the next round of funding doesn't look like it's happening, but then we as Sequoia and others came together to help the company through tough financing times.
And it is amazing that despite all our apprehensions, our relationship with Sequoia and especially with Mohit was incredible. Also, the fact that we had Parinam, that changed Mohit himself, and he then took a lot of these learnings and took it back to the private equity world.
My association with Ujjivan has been a very exciting journey to begin with, because when I first went to meet with Shamit and Ujjivan, I was put on an auto rickshaw, taken around to meet with the customers. Being one of the young and exciting MFIs in the country, at least they would arrange me a car, but that actually showed a lot of the character with which Ujjivan was starting to get built. Because in other companies, I have to establish myself before they accord that kind of respect. And in Ujjivan, they treated everybody in the same way. I actually felt like it was my company, and that is how I contributed. You see, most of the other MFIs that we have been part of, that we see in the industry, it is all about only making money. Money, in my view, is a consequence. If you build a great institution with a good business and good people around, money will come. Ujjivan, right from the beginning, it was all about how can I build a good institution with good set of people, and how I can treat them actually better, how I can treat my consumers better, and how to be transparent with my shareholders.
If you go back to the growth and history of microfinance in India, most people used to call them members. Okay, Ujjivan was the first, or maybe the first, to call them customers. So you give them that respect that she is your customer. Okay, and therefore I need to provide that level of service, because financial capital, I think, really translates into confidence. Okay, and when you see that capital yielding better results for you, and you dream bigger for yourself and your families, I do believe we've been a small part of catalyzing better lives in that sense. Ujjivan has consistently, been a great place to work for many years. Even in the years that we were growing, and perhaps, when we were not as financially successful as we are today, budgets around developing people and training people were never cut. Shamit being fairly clear that what Ujjivan needed to be was not the number one NBFC MFI in those days, but more the best.
So, first of all, the journey with Ujjivan was to see the promise of investing with a gender lens. And Ujjivan opened its doors to Women's World Banking to do that type of work. The family's first priority is the next generation, right? The kids. We want the kids to be in school. We want the kids to do better. Of course, everybody feels like that, regardless of what income bracket you're coming from. And Shamit and the organization leveraged a lot of the new technologies, early adoption of things like document management systems going online, giving loan officers in-field devices rather than pencil and paper. And so Ujjivan became the leader in turnaround time. The time it took from application to disbursement from something like 3 weeks to 4 days.
India has so much work that requires to be done. India has so much, therefore, opportunity from the business standpoint in the way the approach to business, the policies, the product design, the delivery was done from the start, having an empathy for customers in the way that I had not seen in a lot of places. And Ujjivan not only met our initial expectations and objectives and milestones that we had set, but far exceeded it, because it was such a successful operation that it went pan-India, so it went into geographies that several other MFIs had not achieved.
The time I had joined, in fact, it was a global financial crisis. The very first thing that you see in this organization is a culture of trust. There's a lot of, personal interaction and a bonding which is coming out of that one single goal of doing well and bringing up this organization. Now, how do you measure this? It can only be felt. You can't measure it, right? And at that time, we had some excellent investors. There were the likes of Sequoia, Lok Capital, Unitas, Caspian, who would be very amicable, but who would put the point gently and firmly. Also had the same interests and focus in mind as to what is best for Ujjivan. If I could borrow at a lesser rate from the banks, then I should be able to pass on that benefit or a part of that benefit to my customers. 15% of borrowal rates became 10%. We also did something very spectacular, which was unheard of at that time, was that ESOP to be given not only to a management team or at the top level, every person who has performed well. However small you are, as you grow, as long as the corporate governance standards are met, your regulatory and compliances are absolutely great. Your foray into IT systems and digitization is at its best. And one has that integrity as far as your data is concerned. And an innovative spirit to do your best. I think all of this was a magical mix, and that is how Ujjivan grew to be one of the finest institutions as an NBFC in the MFI space.
We thought it will be the biggest and the best run MFI company in the world. I still remember when, a few days before we were investing, Samit called me and said, I want to ensure that you're on board. The company will take 3-4 years to IPO and I don't want you to push me. Exactly 6 months after we invested, Samit and the rest of the management team essentially were coming and pushing, saying we want to do an IPO earlier, as soon as possible. Exactly opposite conversation was happening at the board 6 months later, which is where the board was telling them that you guys are pushing a little too hard on the timelines and be a little more realistic. And kudos to them, they did it.
My first assignment came through in the form of getting ready for an IPO. And that's the first IPO I have done in my career also. We successfully managed to raise a pre-IPO round of 290 crores plus. And then, of course, the IPO came through in the month of May. I would say May 10th, 2016, the red letter day for Ujjivan and a very special day for me.
If I was to say a sense of pride, yeah, when we rang the bell for both Ujjivan Financial Services listing and the Ujjivan Small Finance Bank listing. 2015 to 2021 was an extremely sort of exciting journey. I think this sort of business requires a lot of empathy, in addition to being financially savvy. Shamit had all of that, and of course some of the leadership team that he built around him had all of that. This had to be also a financially, successful business for it to be a repeatable and therefore a growing business. He got it right. He, I guess, understands financial services businesses like nobody else.
Out of the microfinance institutions that were active, Ujjivan had made its impact and reputation because of Shamit's own pedigree. Now, transformation of the microfinance institution into the bank and protecting the ethos of the company, this required complex financial engineering. So there was some convergence with the skills that I had to offer.
Abhijit who joined the board, and me and Sunil, we worked on another project which is to get Ujjivan ready to transform into a bank. And to my biggest surprise, Ramurthy and others actually proposed my name to chair the transformation committee.
That journey is always difficult, and it's always a question of whether it is worth it to take all that on. For me, the answer is a resounding yes.
We had given a date of 1st February 2017 as the launch of the bank. And I said, come what may, we are going to ensure that. We did all the procedural, structural implementations. 31st January 2017, I think we stayed overnight because the auditors and us, because we had to transition that day and close the books of accounts of 31st January midnight and then transfer the entire balance into the bank.
We were amongst the first to do this, so we were somewhat pioneers.
And to that extent, it's not something I was doing on a regular basis. I was not transforming banks or transforming institutions. I was a regular banker. So it was to me also a challenge when I took this on. And I took it on because I knew I could do it, but I had not done it before. So when you do something like that, it's an achievement.
To get the license, I think is a daily testimony to their integrity and solidity of how they went about doing what they did.
We had incredible success. Our IPOs were sort of record, in terms of how many times it was oversubscribed, So that broke that myth that these people are only short-term oriented.
We had come to visit and we were waiting at the reception. He was wearing that black-colored Bengali dhoti and with, if I remember, a red kurta or something like that. So then he said, okay, guys, I'm sorry. I have a clash. I have got to go out for this branch meeting. He spent with us 5 minutes at the reception. But then I realized that these are his work clothes, this is work demeanor, and he actually means that he has to go out to the branch, and that to him is more important than meeting us. Really impressive. Really impressive. In my mind, I have not seen a more interesting investment. Consistency is important. What happens at the ground level has to be consistent. And it has to be consistent with what the management is saying. When such a high turnover environment, if everybody is speaking the same language, it's amazing.
It's like a moving car, right? Suddenly you want to change the wheels of the car. The car has to continue moving because you're doing business. You can't stop and say, okay, I'm going to take a 6-month thing and do all this. You have to continue because those customers you have, their loans are continuing to be there, etc. So it's changing the wheels, changing part of the engine and all that on the go.
It's not just about making profits, which of course is one of the key things, but it's of course serving the community and all the customers as well as its employees. And I think Ujjivan is a fine example of how to wow both customers as well as employees. So I think being a good leader with a clear cause, what he wants to accomplish, is something that struck a strong note with me. And I'm proud to be associated not just with Ujjivan, but with Shomit itself.
I would say the accomplishment was to get the good directors on the board.
At some point of time, investors also look to the entities in which they invested, because they are also competing for good investment. If they find that Ujjivan is a good investment from all parameters, the financial sustainability of the institutions and the governance standards were all set up well, then they were able to exit.
This journey would not have been possible if a lot of people who came onto our board and became board members, some of them whom we didn't know, as we went along, we became friends and became partners in the journey, So they played a significant role at different stages of Ujjivan.
I remember there is a great temple in Madurai. When it was built, it took actually nearly 100 years to build the temple because they faced a lot of challenges. But the only vision it had while it was getting built was it has to last 1,000 years. So I believe every institution which is built with the fundamentals so strong will last very long. And I wish Ujjivan to last for at least another 100 years.
The clients whom it had served as microfinance clients at the bottom of the pyramid, they are already beginning to come out of the poverty line, become small MSMEs. So therefore, I think there is prosperity at the bottom of the pyramid, and I think Ujjivan will continue to subserve its core values and nurture those customers through their financial journey.
When I left law, I said if I'm part of one or two scaling journeys which make a difference on the ground from a very, very personal standpoint, then somewhat life's mission gets accomplished, because if you reach a few million people, then what more can you ask for?
As long as you're focused on your customers and your people, and perhaps in that order, I think there's nothing that can stop them. And nothing has stopped them, nothing can.
The strength that the company has must stay. That culture cannot go away. If that culture goes away, the company may live in a financial sense, but the soul will be dead.
The Small Finance Bank is now on a trajectory that is new and exciting and different, but would not have existed without the ignition of those fantastic people that set it on its growth.
So the world's eyes are on us. And if we ever were looking for a time where we would have all the resources available, it is now. It's like in the movie Apna Time Aa Gaya.
The Ujjivan journey sort of really proves the possible, proves that it's possible to be a mature, robust, rigorous professional organization and to lead with care and compassion and commitment to the least among us.
We always came in as a holding company. We never thought we'll get to a point where we'll be a bank, and now we are becoming reverse merging into a bank. Something that you back, in essence, is while still there, but in kind of a physical form, it wouldn't exist. So, it's a mixed feeling, frankly.
It's sentimental because that's what I invested in. So, that was my baby, investing into Ujjivan Financial Services. I think it's like the thappa which will go away in a way. Yeah.
For me, it is not about the holding company and tomorrow it is only the bank which is going to exist. It is actually the spirit of Ujjivan which matters.
They've graduated from high school and gone to college, and they're still in their youth. They have miles to go before they sleep, miles to go before they sleep.
There's certainly not a death, this is a rebirth. Just opposite. I think it should be a celebration of a reborn Ujjivan.
Companies get merged, demerged all the time. It's just a technicality. But to take a pause, think about how far we have come, and the team that did it together, the old board members, the current board members, and nobody does it this way, in such a human way, I would say.
It is coming to an end. To a certain extent, it is sad. It is a celebration, it is a bit like the Irish wake. That's the reason why we chose Varanasi, where we would finally say goodbye to Ujjivan. It's like Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars, right? And he keeps testing with these rockets. Each of them have multiple rockets. So I think today Ujjivan has a lot of these rockets in terms of new businesses and all that, which is there, which is ready to fire. As far as I'm concerned, hopefully end of this year, I'd be ready to go back to do some other stuff,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Prem, sir. What a wonderful movie. I'm sure many of us are reminiscing the entire wonderful, incredible journey that we've had. And many of you who've joined Ujjivan recently now know a little more about the legacy and the legacy holders. I will now take the opportunity to request the man behind the vision, our beloved Mr. Ghosh, to come and share a few thoughts with us and his vision for our future.
Hi, good evening. I think Chandralekha said, I was very daring. Frankly, I was not daring at all, So when this thought occurred to me to start Ujjivan, I didn't even know how to do a business plan, So I said, why don't I get hold of Sunil, who was my classmate in Wharton, and he was a management consultant. Maybe he will draw up a good business plan for me, and I will then be able to convince the investors. And then, of course, neither Sunil and I had the kind of credibility to start a financial institution. I mean, though I was a banker and Sunil was a very outstanding management consultant with Ferguson. So then we said, Mr. Ramamurthy, who was then the chairman of CMD of ING Vesa, and an old friend of ours, why don't we sort of get him involved? Because he had the kind of credibility, by which we can go forward. And actually, the three of us, there are a lot of definitions of founders of the institution. But if you see this this movie, you'll see that the three of us were the original founders of Ujjivan. Yeah. Then, 20 years have gone by, and we wanted to Ujjivan was coming, the days for Ujjivan was coming to a close. And the reason why this is called Dusk to Dawn is because for Ujjivan Financial Services, it was a sunset time, so it is dusk. But the emergence of Small Finance Bank, Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, which is like the dawn, so that's the reason, this name was given. So we thought, what should we do? We should do something to say goodbye to Ujjivan in a unique way. Ujjivan has always done something quirky or crazy, in terms of this thing. And then we said, why don't we call the past directors of the bank, and also the present directors, and get together, and what better place than in Varanasi, So because some of us were by then 20 years, pretty tired, and we said after that we'll take a holy dip and say goodbye to Ujjivan, But none of us took that holy dip because it was cold. The water was very cold. So, but we did go there and we had a very good time. So most of the, the video you've seen is shot in Varanasi. And, we did this video because we wanted to tell you the story of Ujjivan through our investors, the perspective of our investors. We had, through the life of Ujjivan, the top-rated investors, from the impact world, from the private equity world, also from the world of international financial institutions. The only one who's still there with us is IFC, because, IFC, once they get in, they forget. They've gone to sleep. So the investment is still there. Others have exited, So we had CDC, which was a UK-based government institution. We had the Dutch, government institution invest in us. In fact, the Dutch Queen came to visit us in Jakasandra, so that was a big event. And like today's, shooting for the annual report, everyone quickly put on suits. I said, just because you're meeting the Queen, you have to put on a suit. I don't care, And Prem was reminding me that I was wearing a toned kurta too when we met this thing. I didn't realize it was toned. So we had a whole set of investors, and their perspectives and their understanding of Ujjivan is a great legacy which Ujjivan has. So we wanted to keep a record of that, and so that for you all who have joined, you all know what the legacy of Ujjivan is, So that is the reason for this, this thing which we put together. Finally, I just wanted to tell you that this is a time where we hand over the baton, I think in the last 2 years, you all, under the leadership of Ithira, have done an outstanding job in turning around the bank. I think the bank is at a high which we are, we always enjoyed in the past, not always. We went through our ups and downs, but during our ups, we were up there. And I think you all have reached an incredible peak today after the whole crisis of the COVID and the management change, etc. And now, it's a time to change over and hand over the baton, because Lord of Sunil and Mr. Ramamurthy, always worried. They're old, we are all old. So we are always worried. Acha, have we crossed the river yet? Have we reached the safe harbor? Can we hand over and then we live peacefully, kind of thing? So it has come to that stage to hand over the baton, we have Sanjeev here, who will be taking over from July 1, and it is time to say goodbye also, but it is also a good time to celebrate. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Itira.
Thank you, sir. Your vision makes us dream bigger, aim higher, and do bigger things and become better versions of ourselves. I will now request Mr. Davis, who has been our real rock of Gibraltar through his various stints, his various projects. So please come and share your thoughts. Yeah.
I think Mr. Ghosh has taken us through the journey, so I'm going to now fast forward. So I'm fast forwarding to where we were last year when I stood, was it here on that building, in the other building, but anyway, I stood in front of you, and we had just declared our results, and other SFBs were still declaring their results, but I had this feeling which I shared with you, and I told you that we are the best SFB. So, it took a while after that for the rest of the world to recognize we were the best. But in March this year, we were given that award at the Business Today KPMG Awards at Gift City, where we were awarded, they give the awards to different banks, the nationalized banks, the private banks, foreign banks, and also the SFBs. So we got that award, and I think we catapulted from number 8 based on 21-22 results to 22-23 results. So that was a big jump, and I think all the people there who were there at the awards were pleasantly surprised. So I think that is a recognition of all your efforts, because I think we did it together. But now all I'm standing here and saying is that it's not over. Our 23-24 results were just announced. I don't know if any of you have seen the press reports or read the thing. We have made a profit of 1,281 crores. And we are the last among the SFBs this year to declare our results. In a way, it's also due to the reverse merger, which has been accounted for. But I think what is important is that the numbers indicate that hopefully we should be able to retain the title of the best SFB for another year. But what I want to say is that we don't stop here, because I met one of the foreign banks there, and they told me they have been getting this award for the best foreign bank for 7 years in a row. So I said, okay, we start with one, we'll keep coming, but let's see. 7 years in a row is a big task, but at least we'll try and keep there 2 or 3 years, if not more. But having said that, I'd like to now say that in 6 weeks, I'll be stepping down. We have Mr. Sanjeev Nautiyal, who will be taking over on 1st of July. He's happened to come today and be with us, so I'd like to introduce him to you. He will be joining us on the 1st of June, and for the first 1 month, he'll be president, and then taking over as CEO and MD. And I think Sanjeev comes to us with considerable experience. He's been with the State Bank of India for 37 years, worked in all areas, including spending a stint in Bahrain, where he was responsible for the Gulf and did a tremendous job there, putting things together. Then most recently, he was handling as Deputy Managing Director, the microfinance and financial inclusion portfolio. So I think he's very well conversant with all what we do. So I'd like to welcome him to Ujjivan on all your behalf. So he's here. And I'd like to invite him to say a few words before he goes back to Lucknow. Lucknow is his hometown, and he studied in Lucknow as well. So, Sanjeev, please.
Thank you, Mr. Samit Ghosh, Mr. Davis, Madam Chandralekha, and all dear colleagues. I can see young faces here, and that, energizes me and makes me feel younger too. So I'm very proud and simultaneously humbled to be amongst you. Great people, great place to work, a great bank working for a purpose, for a cause, for the upliftment of the downtrodden, the have-nots, the unbanked. And I think this beautiful country actually means a lot when we talk and walk the talk for the downtrodden and the poor people. So I am extremely excited, humbled, and honored to be working for a cause which is so dear for this country, and working with team members like you. That really makes me very proud. So I will get to know you all as we steer this bank together. I join on the 1st of June, and as an understudy to Mr. Davis, would look to take over the reins on the 1st of July. I would seek your cooperation, your support, your help to understand this bank better and to come up with deliverables which really address the needs of the people we have set about to serve. So let me be brief and soak in the atmosphere, the newly laid out office, the wonderful cafeteria area. I'm loving every bit of this organization, and I look to reinforce, strengthen, and make it even a better place, a better bank. And finally, I think the dream is to convert it into a universal bank. We will work with purpose, with determination, with missionary zeal, and a cause to support us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for your insights, your guidance. Thank you, Mr. Nautiyal. We are looking forward to a new era under your leadership. With this, we come to a close for this event. Thank you, everyone, for joining this YouTube live session. I'm sure it was a great moment and many memories made. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.